What if I told you that women don't truly fall for looks, money, or even charm? They fall for something much deeper, something most men never learn to master. Because while almost every man knows how to give a compliment, only a few know how to make a woman actually feel something real inside. And that's what separates a boy from a man, and a man from someone unforgettable. This isn't about sweet words or clever pickup lines. It's about understanding how feminine energy really works. What wakes up her mind, touches her heart, and earns her respect without ever begging for her attention. Most men talk just to impress, but women listen for honesty. They're not moved by lines that sound practiced. They're moved by presence, by emotional depth, by words that carry truth. And when those words come from an older, grounded man who knows himself, she feels it immediately. It's not about his age that draws her in. It's his calm energy, his tone, his stillness. So listen carefully, because what I'm about to share isn't just about compliments. It's about emotional triggers that create attraction. These words reach places inside her no one else ever noticed. They're the kind of words that make her stop, that make her curious about who you really are, that make her remember your voice long after the talk is over. By the time you reach the end of this, you'll understand why some men can say a single sentence and a woman remembers it for years, while others speak for hours and leave no mark at all. You'll know exactly how to speak to a woman's soul, not her ego. Stay with me till the end, because once you understand this, you'll never look at attraction, confidence, or emotional connection in the same way again. Let's start with the first truth most people misunderstand. Depth over flattery. You see, most men believe compliments are meant to boost a woman's ego. They throw words like beautiful, pretty, stunning, hoping repetition will create connection. But here's the truth: the more shallow the compliment, the quicker it disappears. She may smile, say thank you, maybe even blush, but inside nothing changes. Because beauty doesn't hold her, depth does. And depth isn't about saying more, it's about seeing more. When an older man talks, he doesn't compliment her to get a reaction. He speaks because he's been observing. He's noticed the way her tone softens when she's open, the way her eyes wander when she's deep in thought, the way she holds back words because she chooses peace over pride. So when he finally says, "I like how you carry yourself," it hits differently. Because it isn't flattery, it's recognition. It's truth seen through awareness. Women can sense the feeling behind words instantly. They can tell if your compliment comes from trying to impress or from genuine attention. That's why when a mature man compliments, it holds power. His words are calm and sure. They come from someone who's no longer chasing validation but offering understanding. He's not saying, "You're beautiful," to get attention. He's saying, "There's something about your energy that feels rare." That small shift makes a massive difference. In a world where everyone wants to be noticed, what she truly wants is to be understood. She doesn't want to be the prettiest. She wants to be seen for her uniqueness. That's why empty compliments don't reach her. They take no effort, but depth takes attention. It means you've been truly watching. You've noticed her silence, not just her smile. Her kindness, not just her looks. That's what makes your words stay with her. Most men try to impress before they even connect. They rush to prove they're different instead of showing they actually see her differently. You don't impress a woman by calling her beautiful. You impress her by noticing how her whole energy shifts when she talks about something she loves. You tell her, "The way you talk about your goals, it's contagious." Suddenly, she feels at ease. She feels seen. That's when emotional attraction starts forming. Flattery feeds insecurity. Depth feeds identity. When you give a compliment with substance, you're not handing her what she's craving. You're confirming what she already knows about herself but rarely hears from anyone else. That's what creates emotional closeness. It's not about using romantic tricks, it's truth spoken with awareness. Women always remember how a man made them feel about themselves when they were with him. A mature man, one who's experienced mistakes and heartbreak, knows that words are sacred. He doesn't speak to fill the silence. He uses silence to make his words meaningful. When he says, "You have a way of making people feel comfortable," she doesn't just hear it, she feels seen. Because hardly anyone ever noticed that about her. Depth isn't about being poetic. It's about being present. It's not about saying the right sentence. It's about feeling what's real before you say it. That's what separates a man from a boy. A boy compliments beauty he barely understands. A man honors depth he has taken time to recognize. Women fall for men who see beyond the surface. Men who can describe her essence in ways no one ever has. When you see her truth, you touch her spirit. And that's the part of her that will never forget you. So next time you speak, take a breath. Don't grab the easy words. Let your awareness lead your speech. Compliment the parts of her she thought nobody ever noticed. Because in that single moment, you become unforgettable. A true compliment isn't just about saying something kind. It's about sharing truth she didn't know she needed to hear. When you do that, your words don't just enter her mind, they stay in her memory. That's what women actually long for. Not praise that feeds the surface, but words that see their inner self. So stop chasing looks. Start recognizing depth. Because the woman who feels seen will always remember the man who truly saw her first. Let's go even deeper into something few understand. Women don't actually want validation. They want recognition. Validation says, I notice what you're showing. Recognition says, I see what's real. That difference changes everything. Validation pleases the ego, recognition feeds the soul. When a man learns that difference, his entire way of connecting transforms. Think about it. A woman can get validation anywhere, online attention, social media likes, or surface compliments. But recognition is rare. Recognition happens when you notice what's behind her actions, when you say something that proves you were present, not just seeing her, but understanding her. When you tell a woman, I respect how you think, you're not validating her appearance. You're honoring her mind. When you say, you bring calm wherever you go, you're not feeding her vanity. You're acknowledging the peace she brings to your space. That's what makes a grounded man stand out. He's lived long enough to know that real connection comes from attention, not admiration. Validation makes her feel wanted, but recognition makes her feel known. And that's what she craves, because deep down she's tired of being looked at. She wants to be understood. When she meets a man who listens to understand, not to respond, who observes without trying to control, she starts to relax. Her guard drops. She feels safe enough to be her true self. That's when attraction evolves into intimacy. Validation is shallow because it comes from a place of need. Men who aren't yet emotionally mature give compliments to get approval. But once you've grown, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you no longer validate for confidence. You recognize because you value what's real. That's the masculine calm that soothes her chaos. It's not about being flawless. It's about being present enough to notice what others ignore. Recognition is built on awareness. It's when you catch the small details. How she pauses before replying because she's thinking deeply. How her tone shifts when she's guarding her emotions. How her energy changes when she's uncomfortable. When you gently point those things out, she feels deeply seen. You're not praising her. You're showing her that her emotional world matters to you. Most men talk just to fill silence, but a man with experience waits, observes, and studies. Then, when he finally speaks, his words carry weight. Because a woman may forget the compliments others throw carelessly, but she will never forget the man whose words made her feel truly understood. A woman remembers a man who spoke one honest thing more than 100 who said everything empty. Because true recognition doesn't just touch her ears, it stays deep in her heart. Real recognition also means control. It means you don't rush to fix her feelings or try to manage her reactions. You simply make space for her emotions. That's something many younger men fail to understand. A woman doesn't want you to fix her. She wants you to see her clearly, without judgment. When you do that, she feels emotionally safe. And that is when she begins to respect you, not because you're older, but because you make her feel safe inside. This is the point where emotional intelligence sets men apart. A woman can feel right away whether your compliment comes from awareness or from insecurity. Awareness makes her trust you. Insecurity makes her question what you really want. When you recognize her strength, she feels uplifted. But when you compliment her only to get approval, she feels tired and drained. Recognition is something spiritual. It's not about the words you say, it's about what your energy communicates. When you look at her with real curiosity, not to analyze or judge, but to truly understand her, she feels that. Because energy never lies. You cannot fake awareness. You can't pretend to be present. Either you are emotionally balanced, or you're not. And when you are grounded, your compliments become rare treasures. She replays them in her mind long after you're gone. Not because you said something poetic or clever, but because it came from truth. Recognition creates memory, while validation just makes noise. So the next time you're with a woman, don't search for something sweet or beautiful to say. Look for something true to notice. Notice what makes her unique, not just what makes her attractive. Speak to the parts of her no one else takes the time to see. Because that's where connection begins. Not in fantasy, but in awareness. If you really want to make a woman fall for you, stop trying so hard to impress her. Start noticing her. Because a woman who feels truly seen will never forget the man who looked beyond her image and saw her whole being. Don't validate her just to make her happy. Recognize her to help her feel free. Because when she feels understood, that's when she finally decides to trust you. Not only with her time, but with her truth. Presence speaks louder than words, and this is where many men lose the game before it even starts. They think attraction comes from what they say, what they wear, or how confident they appear. But women don't fall for appearance, they fall for energy. They fall for how a man's presence makes them feel. You can say all the right things, but if your energy feels nervous, needy, or forced, she will feel that instantly. You can't fake calm, you can't fake being centered. Presence is not about talking more, it's about feeling more. A mature man carries presence because he's lived enough to be comfortable with silence. He doesn't feel the need to fill every quiet moment with words. He's learned that silence, when mixed with certainty, creates mystery and interest. When he speaks, he doesn't rush, he lets his words breathe. He looks into her eyes not to impress, but to understand, and that changes everything. Women are not drawn to the loudest man in the room, but to the one who feels most centered. Presence is emotional safety. It's the silent message in a man's energy that says, "You can relax here." Women don't trust words until they have felt that energy. That's why you can tell her she's beautiful 100 times, and it still won't mean much if your presence feels uncertain. But if you simply look at her with stillness, patience, and quiet confidence, she will remember that feeling long after your talk ends. Most men don't realize how sensitive women are to small shifts. She feels when your tone changes. She feels when you pretend to listen while your mind drifts somewhere else. She feels when you're trying to prove your worth instead of simply owning it. That's why presence is power. It's a quiet message that says, "I don't need to convince you of who I am. I already know who I am." And when she senses that, attraction grows deeper. When a man is truly present, his energy slows down everything around him. He creates a space where she doesn't have to perform. She doesn't need to be perfect or strong. She can just be herself. And that is one of the most magnetic things you can offer. Peace in a world that always asks her to act, to please, to impress. That's what women truly fall for. That's what makes them emotionally open. Presence is not about control or dominance. It's about awareness, the ability to read the moment, to feel the energy, and respond with patience instead of reaction. It's when you notice her discomfort without her saying a word and adjust gently. It's when you stay calm while others rush to speak. That calmness makes her feel she's in the company of a man who's not led by fear or ego, but by inner strength. Older men often carry this quality naturally because life has taught them patience through failure, loss, and disappointment. Those experiences teach stillness. They show that not every moment needs control. That's why women are drawn to mature energy. It's not truly about age, it's about emotional balance. When you can stay steady in chaos, she feels secure around you. That's the power of presence. It doesn't demand attention, it earns respect. Here's the paradox. When you're fully present, you speak less, but she hears more. Your words have power because they come from calm certainty. You don't need to fill the silence. You become the silence itself, and that shift changes how she reacts to you. She listens closer. She opens deeper, because presence builds trust faster than charm ever will. That's why emotional intelligence is everything. When you're grounded, you stop performing. You stop trying to be impressive and start being intentional. You start noticing her emotions as they happen. The little pauses, the expressions, the hesitations. You don't interrupt or rush them. You allow them. That's when connection turns into chemistry. A woman doesn't remember the man who said the most words. She remembers the one who felt the most real. The one whose stillness quieted her overthinking. The one whose tone slowed her heartbeat. The one whose presence felt like home. Because in that moment, she's not being flattered or admired. She's being understood. That is the real power of presence. It's not something you perform. It's something you become. It's the energy of a man who has done the inner work, who has healed his impatience, who's no longer ruled by his need to impress anyone. It's the confidence of someone who doesn't seek attention because he already is attention. So if you truly want to master attraction, stop chasing reactions. Learn to control your own energy. Speak less, feel more, and listen completely. Because your calm, focused, and real presence will always say more than words ever can. And remember this, presence isn't about being noticed, it's about being felt. The man who can be felt without trying will always be remembered without speaking. Because real presence leaves silence that echoes longer than any line ever spoken. It's not in the noise of your charm, but in the quiet truth of your energy. That's what draws her in. That's what keeps her thinking of you. Because deep down, every woman remembers the man who didn't try to make her feel seen. He simply saw her.